almost still waiting for YouTube to come back. Just give me a moment. Okay, looks like we're alive on both YouTube and Facebook, so I'm going to just get going before it stops again. If either of those stop, please just flip to the other one, and hopefully we won't have any more problems. Okay, so ABTraceTogether. Why? I'm just gonna do, this is our quick intro to what we're gonna do today. I will give you an introduction to me so you know why you should listen to what I'm saying. We'll talk about what ABTraceTogether is. Then we're gonna talk about why it's probably not going to work, what serious problems it needs to overcome, and how it can be fixed, I hope. So let's just get right moving along. So who am I? My name is Lori Olson. I am a developer, a lead, CTO, mentor, and trainer with over 25 years of software development experience, and about 2 years of being an entrepreneur with my own online school called the Windex School of Mobile Apps. So let's get right to it. What is ABTraceTogether? Well, it's contact tracing for the COVID-19 virus. And it is, the AB part is Alberta. Alberta is a province in Canada. So this is a specific app that was created by the provincial government for contact tracing. It is using the Blue Trace protocol. This is an open source project that came out of Singapore. I'll talk a bit more about that a little later. So why isn't ABTraceTogether going to work? Well, it does suffer from a fatal flaw that so many app creators fall for. It just makes me sad. You see, there's this dichotomy. There's what the people care about, and there's what the government cares about. And before anybody says I'm making this political, let's frame this from the point of view of just an app. What the users of the app care about versus what the creator of the app cares about. This is such an important distinction, and so many people fail at it. Okay, so let's look at this published by our government. This is the ABTraceTogether journey, where it talks about the roles of an individual person using the app, a contract tracer in the government, and a close contact with the individual. So this is like really complicated, and this is what the government cares about. Contact tracing, super important, and how to identify all these contacts and so forth. Let's think about, though, what the average user wants. One, how am I going to use this app every day as I go about my business? And was I exposed to someone with COVID? How am I going to find that out? Versus, again, the government, how can we trace the contacts for COVID-19 positive cases? Now, the app is really laser focused in on that part that the government wants and isn't really addressing the other part very well at all. You see, that other part starts with, this is one part of that tiny diagram, and it isn't even in any part of what they think is important, which is where the individual keeps the application on for a couple of days. This is just like, this is what I care about. How am I going to use this? And it's a side note as far as this diagram is concerned, and as far as the whole app design is concerned. So, again, the dichotomy. People who need to download and use the app versus the people responsible for limiting outbreaks. Both of these things are important, but you know what? Unless people download and use the app, you don't get that follow-on benefit that the government wants. That has to come first. People need to download and use the app. Okay, so what's going to stop people from downloading and using the app? Oh my, so many things. What are these serious problems that ABTraceTogether needs to overcome? First of all is adoption rate. That is the number of people who actually are downloading and using the app. It isn't enough to just download it. So we've had over 120,000 people who've downloaded it, which, on the face of it, sounds fantastic. But that's less than 3% of the population of Alberta. And we know, because some British researchers have told us, that we need to get an adoption rate of like 56% for it to be effective. So this is starting to sound a bit like the numbers for herd immunity, kind of, sort of, but it's different, but it's kind of the same. Now, what do the people say about the app? These are the people who the Alberta government want to download and use the app. Well, I started looking on Twitter and Facebook, and this is some of the stuff I found. Yeah, I saw you have to leave the app in the foreground. To be honest, it kind of lost me at that point. Yeah, not going to happen. This is like top comments on news stories about ABTraceTogether. Doesn't work on older phones. Okay, people use all kinds of phones, and some of them are much older phones. And if the app doesn't support the older phones, this isn't going to get used by a lot of people. Now, about that whole foreground thing. So this is a problem on iPhones about the whole Bluetooth and always on thing. The app only works on an iPhone when the phone is running in the foreground and unlocked. I mean, that's kind of a non-starter. It is for me. I'm not going to walk around with my phone in my hand. I have things to do. So this brings us into the whole aspect of basic usability in the app. This is the second place where people really fail. App creators really fail. When they're designing their apps, they don't think about how people are going to use the app. They don't test how that basic usability is going to work out in the real world. they just, this is part of the marketing materials for ABTraceTogether, where they see, remember to switch back. So if you use another app on your phone, you always have to remember to switch back to ABTraceTogether. How many people are going to remember to do that? So it isn't just getting people to download it, getting them to use it and getting them to remember to go back to it constantly. This is bad, folks. So here's an anecdote from an actual acquaintance of mine. I've also downloaded the app and used it one time when I went out yesterday. It is awkward to remember to turn on Bluetooth and open the app before you go out. Okay, so not everybody has Bluetooth turned on all the time because it sucks power. But we will have to remember to do that because Bluetooth is kind of the only way that this is going to work. Okay, but remembering to open the app all the time, that's going to be awkward. Here's another person I know, a friend of mine. I'm trying to remember, but it'll take a few days to make it a habit. In the meantime, I've pulled out my phone several times to discover I've started the upload process. Oh my God, that's what you do when you have discovered that you actually have been COVID tested positive, that you have the virus. You upload the information. You don't do it randomly. So this is it's like butt dialing, but now we're butt uploading our COVID information by accident. This is not going to be good. Okay, and just in case you thought that it was only the iPhone that had problems, here's a screenshot that somebody posted from their Android machine, where we have this notification on the lock screen that says, ABTraceTogether is scanning to keep you safe. Restart the phone if this notification disappears. Restart the phone. Not the app, but the phone. Really? That's not good either. I honestly don't see how they thought they should roll this out. Okay, now we get to a third issue, privacy concerns. Privacy is a huge thing with people and their phones. They keep their whole lives on their phones, and they want to make sure that their phone is private. So that whole wandering around with your phone unlocked, not cool. I don't want to accidentally maybe set it down because I need both hands and have somebody be able to take off with my phone unlocked. No. And we have this Blue Trace protocol thing. Remember I said I'd get back to it? This open source project that the ABTraceTogether app was based on. Now, this is an open source project, and it came with apps for iPhone, apps for Android, a whole back end. Now, ABTraceTogether is using the app for iPhone and is using the app for Android. They decided to rewrite the back end because the back end was using something that developers will understand. It's called Firebase, and that is produced by Google. And that would have meant the data was stored somewhere in Google controlled land, and that would be a privacy violation for Albertans because our privacy laws would have forbidden that. So, good thing our government decided not to use that back end, and they built their own. They also hired this out to Deloitte, who, I don't know, they're accountants and auditors, aren't they? But they write apps too. And they paid them $625,000 without going out to a request for proposal, an RFP process. That doesn't really sound that cool. I don't know that there wasn't an RFP, but certainly I think I would have heard about it because I'm very well connected in the online app community, especially locally. So I think they just handed it off to Deloitte. And Deloitte didn't even have to write those apps. They just used the open source ones. And again, the open source ones. Here we go, where the advertising on BlueTrace says, BlueTrace is designed around privacy. That sounds great. And then it says there is limited collection of personally identifiable information. The only personally identifiable information collected is a phone number, which is securely stored by the health authority. A phone number. That's the most uniquely identifiable thing out there, is your phone number. Your phone number is you. And this is what people's reaction is to that. Nope, not going to doing it. Nope, not putting a government app on my phone. Nope, I will not be signing up for this. It's an invasion of privacy. You know, people don't completely understand all the ins and outs of what's going on. Some of it is a bit of FUD and conspiracy theory, but, you know, they get the main thing. They're getting your phone number, and that's not private. So let's move into, for a moment, the privacy concerns that developers have. I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing this is that people have been asking me ever since this app was released, should they download it? So I had to actually dig into this and figure out, should you? Now we have the fact that this is open source. This won't mean much to a lot of people, but it is open source under the GPL3 license. What does that actually mean? It means that if you actually use the app, that you are entitled to see the source code. So Alberta Health says that the source code will be released by the end of next week, which is good news for transparency. Well, yes and no. The app is released. Where's the source code? Why isn't the source code available right now? If the source code is being released next week, is that going to be the actual code that's actually used in the app? I don't know. That trust is broken for me because it wasn't released when the app was released. And as Mark Bennett points out, unless they actually do an audit of the service collecting the data on the other end, we can't be sure of. Yeah, that's true. And they have your phone number. Now, this guy, I have to say, it is a bit of conspiracy mongering here. Tricked. I don't think anybody was tricked into giving their phone number, but because the app actually asks you to do it, it confirms that with you to use it. But to use the app, you have to cough up your phone number. You shouldn't have to do that. It's not necessary. Now, the government wants you to do that because they want to contact you if somebody who, one, has been using the app, two, has been tested for COVID, 3, got a positive test, and 4, uploaded the data from their ABTraceTogether app to the government site to say, hey, I had a positive test result, so my contacts might have been exposed. And then the government goes and they take that contact info that you uploaded, and they phone people. So now they've associated this contact info with a phone number with you. This is not necessary. You know what can be done? We could do it a completely different way with push notifications. Those unique numbers that are associated with your contacts, that you're exchanging with your contacts when you're in proximity to them, those aren't uniquely identifiable to anyone except with app, so that when those numbers are uploaded, hey, these are the people exposed, you can push a notification out to the app that says, hey, you were exposed. No phone numbers required. So why are we using phone numbers again? And how long will the data that gets uploaded to the government be held? The government says that it's going to be held until a vaccine is perfected. How long is that? That's not when it's first available. That's not when it's, out in general use. It's when it's perfect. That's a little too not well defined for me. And of course, here we have the government confirming the only personal data they collect is your mobile number, which you shouldn't have to give out. Like I said, phone number is uniquely identifiable to one person. And that is outside the ecosystem of the app. So, not private. Okay, now we have some future challenges as well with this app. So what about when we get to this point where lockdown has kind of been released and people start traveling again? I mean, we've already had people crossing the Alberta border and the BC border, going to mountain towns in BC from Alberta. It goes the other way too. So when people from outside Alberta come here, when people from Alberta go outside, what kind of contact tracing are we going to have if it's an Alberta only solution? Now, Apple and Google, the two main phone providers, are working together on a system to do this contact tracing. It's not available yet, mostly because Apple doesn't support it yet, but they will. Apple is going to fix some of the problems that ABTraceTogether is currently experiencing, that whole phone need to be unlocked thing. So that problem is going to be fixed. Apple is fixing it. It's going to be released later on this month, and we will have that fix. However, the Alberta government says it's not going to adopt that system. So if that's what other people out in the world are using and we don't use it, how do we travel? How do we securely travel? How do we let people into the province? I mean, if they have all their contact information in another app, an app that Apple and or Google have provided that works in an entire ecosystem that both Apple and Google are supporting, then we can be reasonably certain that these contacts that you have in other countries can be traced, and this would all work. But if it's an Alberta only solution, this is not going to work. So, how can we fix all this? Well, first of all, I think the app itself needs a serious marketing overhaul. Focus more on the people who are going to be using the app and less on the contact tracing that is going to go on in the back end. Because the people that are using the app from day to day are the primary users. And if they don't download the app, if they don't use the app, then those contact tracers won't have a job and it won't work. You need to advertise instead of to the whole province as a group saying, hey, you need this app, which is basically what we're getting right now. You need to start focusing advertising on the people who are really highly motivated to have this contact tracing working. That's the high risk groups. The seniors, the caretakers for seniors, all the high risk groups, the people on the front lines right now need to all be using this. And then they need to spread the word. Because if all of those people are using it and they ask their friends and family to use it, you'll get a much better uptake than you will if the government says, hey, you should use this app so we can trace contacts when you get sick. That's not a marketing message anyone wants to hear. You need to put a human face on the advertising. I mean, you guys already know this. You're doing a fabulous job of this with our daily updates with Dr. Hinshaw. She's amazing. And she sounds so encouraging and compassionate. That human face is what we need on all the advertising about anything about this app. People relate to people. Right now, the video app PowerPoint presentation. Put some people in it. Put some grandmas in there because people want to care about their grandmas not getting sick and dying. Put some kids in it because parents care about having their kids being able to go back to school in the fall. People care about having their older kids, their young adults, being able to go back to post-secondary school and graduate. These are the kinds of people that we relate to. And if you put that human face on it, people are far more likely to be downloading the app and trying to remember to use it until we get some of those fixes that we talked about. You need to address the privacy concerns that lots of friends and family and business associates come to for advice. People like me say that having the phone number in that app is not helping for privacy at all. You don't need it. It's not necessary. take it out. Use push notifications to inform people and give them a number to call back to. Let them initiate that call. Everyone who wants to should be able to use this app. I mean, their phone has to support it. It has to have Bluetooth. It has to be able to communicate with other Bluetooth devices out there. But all phones possible should be supported, not just the latest, greatest ones. And I want the government to think real hard about 6 to 12 months from now, because I know you want the lockdown to end. You want the economy to restart. So do I. But I also want to be safe if I'm traveling. I want to be safe if travelers come to my town. Work with the Apple and Google framework. Support it. And make sure that this is going to be a global solution that works for everyone. Okay, so that is all I have to say. Took a half hour. Hopefully that will answer people's questions. If you have more questions for me, certainly you can reach out to me through the YouTube video, through my Facebook page. Reach out to me. I will happily respond to questions that you have. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully